The afternoon sun cast a warm glow over Oakwood Park as May adjusted her worn backpack over her shoulder. At 24, she balanced graduate studies with part-time nanny work for the Henderson family, watching over their 2 energetic children 3 days a week. Today was a typical Tuesday, playground time for 8-year-old Tyler and 6-year-old Zoe, who had already raced ahead to the swings. "Not too high, Tyler," May called out, settling onto a bench where she could keep a careful eye on both children. She pulled out her textbook, hoping to squeeze in some studying for her child development course while the kids played. The park buzzed with the usual after-school crowd, nannies chatting in small groups, parents scrolling through phones, and children's laughter floating through the air. May glanced up every few seconds, her attention divided between her studies and her responsibilities. That's when she noticed something unusual by the large spiral slide at the far end of the playground. A small girl, no older than 5, stood alone with tears streaming down her face. The child looked around frantically, her small hands clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest. What struck May as odd was that no one seemed to notice the distressed child. The nearby adults were engrossed in conversation or their phones, and the other children were too busy with their games. "Hey guys, I need to check on something," May said to her charges. "Stay on the swings where I can see you, okay?" After receiving nods of agreement, May walked toward the crying girl. As she got closer, she could see the child's shoulders shaking with each sob, her curly brown hair falling across her tear-stained face. "Hi there," May said gently, crouching down to eye level with the girl. "My name's May, are you okay?" The little girl looked up, her brown eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. She clutched her rabbit tighter but didn't speak. "That's a lovely rabbit you have," May continued in a soft voice. "Does your bunny have a name?" After a moment's hesitation, the girl whispered, "Hoppy." "Hoppy is a perfect name," May smiled. "And what's your name?" "Lily," came the quiet reply. "It's nice to meet you, Lily. Are you here with someone today?" May asked, scanning the playground again for any adult who might be looking for the child. Lily's bottom lip quivered. "Anna brought me. She was talking to her friend and told me to play. But then I couldn't find her anymore." Fresh tears welled up in her eyes. "I don't know where she is." May felt a twinge of anger at the carelessness of whoever was supposed to be watching Lily, but she kept her expression calm and reassuring. "Well, I'm sure Anna is looking for you right now," she said. "How about we sit on this bench together, and that way she'll be able to find you easier. Sometimes when we're lost, it's better to stay in one spot." Lily nodded and followed May to a nearby bench. May quickly checked on Tyler and Zoe, who were now taking turns on the monkey bars before turning her full attention back to the frightened child. "Are you thirsty? I have some extra water," May offered, pulling a small water bottle from her backpack. Lily accepted it with a shy "thank you" and took small sips. "You know what helps me when I feel scared?" May said, "Playing a game. Do you know how to play I Spy?" Lily shook her head. "It's easy. I look around and find something, and then I say, 'I spy with my little eye something,' and then I tell you what color it is. Then you try to guess what I'm looking at. Want to try?" The distraction worked better than May had hoped. Within minutes, Lily's tears had dried, and she was giggling as she tried to guess that May had spied a red frisbee being thrown between a father and son across the park. "I spy with my little eye," Lily said, her voice stronger now. "Something yellow." May made a show of looking around carefully. Is it that yellow butterfly on the flowers over there?" "No," Lily giggled. "Is it that little boy's yellow shirt by the sandbox?" "Nope." "Oh, I know. Is it the yellow slide?" "Yes." Lily clapped her hands in delight, her earlier distress momentarily forgotten. As they played, May learned that Lily was 4, almost 5 as she proudly stated, and that Anna was her family's au pair who had brought her to the park after preschool. Lily lived with her daddy because Mommy lives in heaven now, a revelation that May received with gentle understanding. "My daddy makes computers," Lily explained as they continued their game. "He works a lot but reads me 3 stories every night." May nodded, figuring Lily's father probably worked in IT or software development like many in the area. She checked her watch. Almost 30 minutes had passed since she'd found Lily, and there was still no sign of the negligent au pair. "Should we try to find a park helper to call your daddy?" May suggested, concerned about how long the child had been separated from her caregiver. Before Lily could answer, a man's voice called out, "Lily! Lily!" The panic in his tone was unmistakable. Lily's head snapped up, her face breaking into a wide smile. "Daddy," she cried, jumping off the bench and running toward a man who was quickly making his way across the playground. The man swept Lily into his arms, holding her tight. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he said, his voice thick with relief. "Anna called me frantic because she couldn't find you." May stood up, gathering her things. She watched as the father checked Lily for any injuries, his movements gentle but thorough. He was dressed in simple jeans and a navy button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking like any other worried parent. When he finally looked up and noticed May, gratitude flooded his face. "Were you watching over her?" he asked, approaching with Lily still in his arms. "Yes," May replied. "I found her crying by the slide about half an hour ago. We've been playing I Spy while waiting for someone to find her." "Thank you," he said with such sincerity that May felt a blush creep into her cheeks. "I'm Tom, Lily's dad. I can't tell you how grateful I am that you stayed with her. I'm May. I'm glad I could help. I work as a nanny, so," she trailed off, not wanting to sound like she was judging his childcare arrangements, though she certainly had opinions about the absent au pair. "Daddy, May taught me a new game," Lily said excitedly, "and she gave me water and made me not scared anymore." Tom smiled at his daughter before turning serious eyes back to May. "Truly, thank you. I was in a meeting when Anna called, and I've never left a conference room so quickly in my life." "Any decent person would have done the same," May said, noticing for the first time the subtle quality of Tom's watch and the fine material of his casual clothes. "Unfortunately, that's not always true," Tom replied. "There are plenty of people who would have just walked by." May shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "I should get back to my kids, I mean the children I'm watching." She corrected herself, gesturing toward Tyler and Zoe, who were now digging in the sandbox. "Of course," Tom nodded. "Thanks again, May. You've restored my faith in humanity today." With a final wave to Lily, who shyly waved back while still clutching Hoppy the rabbit, May returned to her charges, thinking the encounter was over. She had no idea that this brief meeting would be the beginning of a story much larger than she could have imagined, or that the grateful father was far more than just another parent at the park. The next morning, May couldn't stop thinking about the little girl from the park. As she prepared breakfast in her tiny apartment, she wondered if Lily was okay and hoped her father had dealt with the careless au pair. May had seen too many distracted caregivers in her years of nannying, and it always bothered her when children weren't given proper attention. "Some people just don't understand how quickly things can go wrong," she muttered to herself, pouring milk over her cereal. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Henderson confirming her schedule for the day. Wednesday was her busiest day. Classes in the morning, nannying in the afternoon, and then a night shift at the campus library to help pay her growing pile of student loans. She sighed, calculating how much sleep she might get before starting all over again on Thursday. May grabbed her backpack, heavy with textbooks, and headed out the door of her ground-floor apartment. The bus was crowded as usual, but she managed to find a seat near the back where she could review notes for her morning lecture. Child development theories swam before her eyes as the bus lurched through traffic. By the time she arrived at Westlake Children's Center for her afternoon nannying job, May was already tired. The lecture had been particularly intense, covering attachment theory and its long-term effects on childhood development. It was fascinating material, but also reminded her of how important her work with children really was. "May," Tyler shouted when she walked through the door, running to give her a hug around the waist. "Hey, buddy," she smiled, ruffling his hair. "Ready for our Wednesday adventure?" Wednesdays were special because Mrs. Henderson worked late, which meant May had to prepare dinner for the kids and get them ready for bed. She had turned these evenings into what she called World Kitchen Wednesdays, teaching the children about different countries through simple cooking projects. "What are we making today?" Zoe asked, bouncing on her toes with excitement. "Today we're visiting Italy," May announced. "We're going to make homemade pizza." The kitchen soon became a flurry of activity as May helped the children measure flour, mix dough, and chop vegetables using safe, child-appropriate knives for Zoe, while Tyler was allowed to use a slightly sharper one under close supervision. She loved these moments, seeing the pride in their eyes as they created something with their own hands. As they worked, May found herself thinking about Lily again. Had anyone ever baked with her? Did her father, despite his apparent wealth, make time for these kinds of activities? Or was she left mostly in the care of that irresponsible au pair? "May, you're spilling the sauce." Tyler's voice broke through her thoughts. "Oops, good catch," she laughed, wiping up the small puddle of tomato sauce that had formed while she was distracted. "Let's get these masterpieces into the oven." While the pizzas baked, filling the house with a mouth-watering aroma, May supervised homework time. Tyler had math problems while Zoe practiced writing letters. The normalcy of the routine was comforting, yet May couldn't shake the image of the frightened little girl by the slide. After dinner, baths, stories, and tucking the children into bed, May sat at the Hendersons' kitchen table waiting for their mother to return. She used the quiet time to study, but found herself doodling small rabbits in the margin of her notebook, little bunnies that looked suspiciously like Lily's stuffed Hoppy. "Why can't I stop thinking about her?" May whispered to herself. In her years of nannying, she'd helped countless upset children. What made this one little girl stick in her mind? Perhaps it was the vulnerability in those big brown eyes. Or maybe it was the way Lily had mentioned so matter-of-factly that her mother lived in heaven. May knew what it was like to grow up with a piece missing from your family puzzle. Her own father had left when she was 12, and though it wasn't the same as a parent dying, she understood the hollow feeling of absence. Mrs. Henderson arrived home just after 9, looking exhausted from her long day at the hospital where she worked as a nurse. "Everything go okay?" she asked, dropping her purse on the counter. "Perfect," May assured her. "The kids made Italian pizzas for dinner, homework is done, and they're both asleep. Tyler said to tell you he loves you to the moon and back." Mrs. Henderson smiled warmly. "What would I do without you, May? You're a lifesaver." The praise felt good, but as May caught the late bus to campus for her library shift, she couldn't help wondering if she was making enough of a difference in the world. Her professors talked about systemic changes needed in early childhood education, yet here she was, just one person caring for a few children at a time, while trying to scrape together enough money to finish her degree. The library was quiet when she arrived, just a handful of students hunched over laptops or searching through stacks. May settled behind the reference desk, pulled out her own coursework, and prepared for the long night ahead. Around midnight, with only 3 other students still in the library, May decided to take her break. She wandered through the stacks, finding comfort in the smell of books and the peaceful silence. In the child psychology section, she ran her fingers along the spines, stopping at a title about helping children cope with loss. She pulled the book from the shelf and flipped it open, thinking of Lily. The pages fell open to a chapter about creating security for children who had experienced trauma or loss. One passage caught her eye. Children who have lost a parent often develop heightened anxiety about losing the remaining parent or caregivers. Establishing consistent routines and reliable connections helps build a sense of safety in their world. May thought about Lily's panic when she couldn't find her au pair. Was that normal separation anxiety, or was it deeper because she'd already lost her mother? Had anyone helped her process that grief properly? "Hey, May, there's a student looking for help with the research databases," called Jin, her supervisor from the end of the aisle. "Coming," she replied, reluctantly returning the book to its shelf. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of helping students, reshelving returns and stealing moments to work on her own assignments. By the time she locked up at 2 a.m., her eyes were burning with fatigue. Outside, the campus was eerily quiet. May pulled her jacket tighter against the night chill and began the short walk to the bus stop. The last bus would come in 15 minutes, and then she could finally go home and collapse into bed for a few precious hours of sleep before starting all over again. As she waited at the deserted bus stop, May couldn't help feeling that her life was stuck in an exhausting loop of work. Study, more work, too little sleep, and barely enough money to get by. She loved working with children, but sometimes wondered if she'd ever be able to finish her degree and make the bigger impact she dreamed of. The headlights of the approaching bus cut through her thoughts. She climbed aboard, finding it nearly empty except for a janitor heading home from a late shift and a couple of students who looked as tired as she felt. May leaned her head against the window, watching the streetlights blur as the bus moved through the sleeping city. In her mind, she saw Lily's face again, the fear in her eyes slowly giving way to trust as May had comforted her. There had been something special about that connection, something that felt important in a way May couldn't quite explain. Maybe that's enough sometimes, she whispered to her reflection in the dark glass. To be there for one child when they need you most. The bus pulled up to her stop and May stepped out into the quiet street. As she walked the short distance to her apartment, she decided that she would return to Oakwood Park during her free time on Saturday. Not because she expected to see Lily again, the chances of that were slim, but because something about that place now felt significant in her journey. What May didn't know was that across town, in a house very different from her humble apartment, a little girl was falling asleep clutching a stuffed rabbit and asking her father when they could go back to the park to see the nice lady who knew how to play I Spy. And that father, far from being just another parent at the playground, was someone whose path crossing with May's would change both their lives in ways neither could. Imagine Saturday arrived with perfect weather, sunshine warming. The crisp autumn air as leaves in brilliant shades of orange, and red danced across Oakwood Park. May had finished her morning shift at the campus coffee shop and, despite the temptation to use her rare free afternoon for studying, found herself drawn back to the park where she'd met Lily. She wasn't expecting to see the little girl again. The city was too big, the park too popular, and weekend crowds meant different families would likely be there. Still, May brought her textbook, planning to find a sunny bench and enjoy the peaceful atmosphere while reviewing for her upcoming exam. The playground was bustling with weekend activity, children climbing, swinging and racing around while parents chatted in small groups. May found an empty bench near the sandbox and settled in, opening her book, but finding her attention constantly drifting to the children playing nearby, unconsciously scanning for a head of curly brown hair and a stuffed rabbit. After about 20 minutes of pretending to study, May gave up and closed her book. She watched a father patiently teaching his toddler to climb the small ladder to the slide, the care and attention evident in his every movement. That's what children need, she thought. Someone fully present in the moment with them. May. May. The high-pitched voice cut through the playground noise. May turned, surprised to hear her name, and spotted Lily running toward her, pigtails bouncing and a familiar stuffed rabbit clutched in one hand. Behind her, looking slightly winded from trying to keep up, was her father. "You came back," Lily exclaimed, stopping in front of May's bench with a wide grin that revealed a recently lost front tooth. "Lily?" May couldn't hide her surprise. "Hi there. What a coincidence running into you again." "It's not coin, that word," Lily said, stumbling over coincidence. "Daddy brought me here because I asked to come find you." May glanced up at Lily's father, who had reached them now. He gave her a slightly embarrassed smile. "I hope we're not bothering you," he said. "She's been talking about the nice lady who played I Spy all week. I promised we could come to the park today, and she insisted we had to look for you." "That's really sweet," May replied, genuinely touched that she had made such an impression on the child. "It's nice to see you both again. I'm Tom," he said, extending his hand. "I don't think I properly introduced myself the other day. I was a bit overwhelmed." "May," she responded, shaking his hand. "Though I guess Lily already told you that." "May taught me I Spy," Lily informed her father seriously, as though he might have forgotten this critical detail. "Can we play again?" Tom looked questioningly at May. "We really don't want to intrude on your afternoon." "It's fine," May assured him, noting that he seemed more relaxed than during their first meeting. His casual jeans and light sweater were a far cry from the business casual attire he'd worn before, though she couldn't help noticing the quality of the materials. "I was just taking a study break anyway." "Study? Are you in school?" Tom asked, sitting down on the bench while Lily immediately began searching the playground for something to spy. "Graduate program in early childhood development," May explained. "I work as a nanny part-time to help pay for it." "That explains why you were so good with Lily," Tom nodded. "She hasn't stopped talking about you." "I spy with my little eye," Lily interrupted. "Something blue." The next hour passed in a blur of games, conversation, and laughter. They played I Spy until Lily decided she wanted to go and the swings where May and Tom took turns pushing her higher. "But not too high, Daddy." Tom asked thoughtful questions about May's studies, showing genuine interest in her passion for childhood education. In turn, May learned that Tom worked in technology, a vague description that she didn't press on, and that Lily's mother had passed away from cancer when Lily was just 2. She doesn't really remember her, Tom said quietly while Lily was distracted by a butterfly that had landed near the swing. Sometimes I worry about that, about Lily growing up without those memories. Is that strange? Not at all, May replied. Memory is such a big part of how we understand ourselves and our connections to others. But children are resilient and they form their understanding of the world through the stories we tell them too. The way you talk about her mother will help shape how Lily understands that part of her life. Tom looked at her with something like surprise. That's actually really helpful. Most people just tell me how sorry they are or change the subject. May shrugged. It's what I'm studying. And I've worked with enough children to know that they need honest conversations, just framed in ways they can understand. Daddy, I'm hungry, Lily announced, jumping off the swing and running to them. Tom checked his watch. You're right, it's almost lunchtime. We should probably head home. A flicker of disappointment crossed May's face before she could hide it. She had enjoyed their company more than she expected. Unless, Tom hesitated, then seemed to make up his mind. Would you like to join us? There's a nice cafe just across from the park that makes great sandwiches. My treat as a proper thank you for helping Lily the other day. Oh, you don't need to do that, May started, but Lily cut in. Please come, May. They have the best cookies ever. Looking at Lily's hopeful expression, May found herself nodding. Okay, but only if you let me buy my own lunch. You don't owe me anything for the other day. Tom looked like he wanted to argue, but instead smiled and nodded. Fair enough. The cafe was charming. A small, family-owned place with mismatched furniture and the delicious smell of fresh bread. They found a table by the window overlooking the park, and Lily immediately took charge of making sure May sat next to her. Over lunch, the conversation flowed easily. May told stories about the Henderson children and their World Kitchen Wednesdays which fascinated Lily. Can we do that, Daddy? Can we make foods from around the world? Well, Tom said with a slight grimace. Cooking isn't exactly my strong point. The last time I tried to make pancakes, the smoke alarm went off. It's not that hard, May assured him. You just need to start with simple recipes. Or I could just hire a chef, Tom joked. Then, seeing May's expression, quickly added, that was a bad joke. I don't actually have a personal chef. Something about the way he said it made May wonder if he could afford one if he wanted to. There were little tells. The casual mention of his home office, the quality of Lily's clothing, the way he didn't even glance at prices on the menu. That suggested Tom was more financially comfortable than most of the parents she knew through nannying. After lunch, as they stood outside the cafe preparing to say goodbye, an awkward silence fell. Lily solved it by tugging on May's hand. Will you come to the park again next Saturday? He glanced at Tom, unsure how to respond. Was this turning into something weird? But his expression was open and hopeful, with no hint of anything that set off warning bells. If your dad doesn't mind, she replied carefully. I think that would be nice, Tom said. Maybe we could make it a regular thing? Lily clearly enjoys your company and I... He paused, seeming to search for the right words. I appreciate talking with someone who understands children so well. Parenting alone isn't always easy. There was a vulnerability in his admission that touched May. Despite whatever advantages his apparent wealth might provide, Tom was still just a father trying his best to raise a daughter without her mother. I'd like that, May agreed. Same time next Saturday? It's a date, Tom said, then immediately looked flustered. I mean, not a date. Just a, you know what I mean. May laughed, finding his momentary discomfort endearing. I know what you mean. A park play date for Lily. They exchanged phone numbers. Just in case plans changed, Tom explained, and said their goodbyes. May watched as Tom and Lily walked hand in hand toward the parking lot, the little girl turning back twice to wave enthusiastically. On the bus ride home, May found herself smiling. The afternoon had been unexpectedly pleasant, and she genuinely looked forward to seeing them again. A small voice in the back of her mind whispered a warning about getting too attached to a child who wasn't part of her professional responsibilities. But she pushed it aside. What harm could come from being a friendly face at the park once a week? It wasn't like this was going to turn into anything complicated. Tom was clearly just a nice dad looking for positive influences in his daughter's life, and May was happy to be that for Lily. Besides, she told herself as she unlocked the door to her apartment, she was far too busy with school and work to think about anything else. This was just a pleasant weekend diversion. Nothing more. What May didn't realize was that, Tom had spent the entire drive home listening to Lily chatter about Miss May, with a thoughtful expression on his face. And that when they arrived at their large house in the city's most exclusive neighborhood, he had immediately called his assistant to reschedule a Monday morning meeting, explaining that he needed to research something personal instead. The wheels of fate had been set in motion, though neither May nor Tom could possibly imagine where their park bench meeting would eventually lead them. Tuesday morning found May hurrying across campus, her backpack heavy with books and a travel mug of coffee clutched in one hand. She'd stayed up too late finishing a paper and was now running dangerously close to being late for her child psychology lecture. As she rushed up the steps of the Behavioral Sciences building, her phone buzzed with a text message. Balancing her coffee precariously, she fished her phone from her pocket. The message was from Tom. "Lily wanted me to send you this masterpiece." Her first attempt at World Kitchen Wednesday on a Tuesday. Below was a photo of Lily standing proudly beside a kitchen counter covered in flour, a misshapen but colorful sugar cookie in her hand. Her face was spotted with frosting and her smile was enormous. May couldn't help but grin. She quickly typed back, "That looks delicious. Tell her I'm impressed," before shoving her phone back in her pocket and hurrying to class. Throughout the lecture, May found her mind wandering to Lily and Tom. It had been 3 days since their impromptu lunch, and this was the second text Tom had sent, the first being a simple thank you for a pleasant afternoon. She hadn't expected to hear from him again until their planned park meeting on Saturday. "Ms. Chen, do you have thoughts on Bowlby's attachment theory as it relates to non-parental caregivers?" Me snapped back to attention, realizing that Professor Watkins was addressing her directly. The entire class had turned to look at her expectantly. "Yes, sorry," May gathered her thoughts quickly. "Bowlby's work shows that while the primary attachment is usually to parents, children can and do form significant attachments to consistent caregivers like grandparents, teachers, or nannies. These secondary attachments can provide important emotional security, especially when primary attachments are disrupted or unavailable." Professor Watkins nodded approvingly. "Exactly. And this becomes particularly relevant when we consider children from single-parent households or those who have experienced loss." The professor's words faded as May thought again of Lily, who had lost her mother at such a young age. Was that why the little girl had latched on to May so quickly? Was she unconsciously seeking that secondary attachment figure? After class, May headed to the library to squeeze in some study time before her afternoon nanny shift. She found a quiet corner and pulled out her laptop, intending to research for her next paper. Instead, she found herself opening a new browser tab and typing Tom followed by his last name, which she'd caught a glimpse of on his credit card when he paid for lunch. The search results made her coffee go cold in her hand. Thomas Harrington, founder and CEO of Pinnacle Tech Innovations. Estimated net worth $720 million. No way, May whispered. Clicking on an article from Business Weekly, featuring a professional photo of Tom in a suit, looking more polished but still recognizably the same man who'd joked about burning pancakes. The article described how Tom had built his company from a small startup to a tech giant specializing in security software. There was mention of his philanthropic work, particularly focused on education and programs for single parents. One paragraph caught her eye. Following the tragic loss of his wife Lisa to cancer 3 years ago, Harrington has maintained a notably private personal life, focusing on raising their daughter and expanding Pinnacle's charitable foundation. May closed her laptop with more force than necessary, drawing annoyed glances from nearby students. Her mind was spinning. Tom wasn't just well off, as she'd suspected. He was wildly, enormously wealthy, the kind of rich that appeared on magazine covers, and he'd never mentioned it. Not even a hint. As she walked to the bus stop, May felt a confusing mix of emotions. Should she be angry that he'd hidden such a significant detail? But had he really hidden it? Or had she simply not asked the right questions? He'd said he worked in technology, technically true, if drastically understated. By the time she arrived at the Henderson home for her nanny shift, May had decided not to mention her discovery when she saw Tom on Saturday. After all, people with that kind of wealth probably had good reasons to be cautious about revealing their status to relative strangers. "May," Zoe cried when she opened the door. "Can we make those paper birds again today? The ones that fly? For the next few hours, May lost herself in origami lessons, homework help, and playground time with the Henderson children. The normalcy was comforting, helping her push thoughts of millionaire entrepreneurs to the back of her mind. That evening, as she prepared dinner for the children, Mrs. Henderson came home earlier than expected. Looking flustered. "Everything okay?" May asked, stirring pasta sauce. "Just a change of plans," Mrs. Henderson replied, dropping her nursing scrubs in the laundry room. "I swapped shifts with a colleague. I've got an interview tomorrow." "An interview?" "That's great," May said, genuinely happy for her employer who had been talking about finding a better-paying position for months. "It's at Harrington Memorial Hospital," Mrs. Henderson continued, washing her hands at the kitchen sink. "They're expanding their pediatric unit and the benefits are supposed to be amazing. It's so competitive, though. I never thought I'd get an interview." May nearly dropped the wooden spoon. "Harrington? As in Thomas Harrington?" Mrs. Henderson looked surprised. "Yes, actually. The hospital was renamed after his wife died there. He donated something like $50 million to build a new cancer treatment center." "How did you know that?" "I read an article about him recently," May said vaguely. "Impressive guy. From what I've heard, he's actually really down to earth despite the money," Mrs. Henderson said, sampling the pasta sauce with an appreciative nod. "One of the nurses I know who treated his wife said he would bring her coffee every morning, even when he was in the middle of big business deals. Said he never acted like the rich guy, you know." May nodded, her mind racing. Down to earth was exactly how she would have described Tom from their interactions. Nothing about him had screamed billionaire. His clothes were nice but not flashy. His manner was friendly but not entitled, and most tellingly, he had seemed genuinely grateful when she'd helped Lily. After leaving the Henderson home, May found herself unable to focus on her evening study plans. She kept thinking about Tom, not as the wealthy CEO from the articles, but as the slightly awkward single dad from the park who didn't know how to make pancakes without setting off smoke alarms. Her phone buzzed with another text. It was Tom again. "Lily wanted to know if you know how to make those folded paper birds her friend from school was showing her today. Apparently my attempts were not right, Daddy. I've attached photographic evidence of my failure." The picture showed a crumpled mess of paper that bore no resemblance to a crane. May laughed out loud on the empty bus, drawing a curious look from the driver. She typed back, "Those are origami cranes. I actually taught some kids how to make them today. I can show Lily on Saturday if she wants." His response came quickly. "You'd be saving my reputation. She's currently telling me I'm not as good at things as May." May smiled at her phone, then hesitated. Should she mention that she knew who he was? Would that change things between them? After deliberating for a moment, she decided against it. If Tom wanted her to know about his wealth and status, he would tell her himself. Until then, she would treat him just as she had before, as Lily's dad who needed help making origami cranes. When Saturday arrived, May found herself taking extra care with her appearance before heading to the park. She told herself it was simply because she wanted to look professional. After all, she was technically representing her field when she talked with Tom about child development. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was handsome, kind, and apparently one of the richest men in the city. Oakwood Park was busy as usual, but she spotted Tom and Lily right away. They were already at their bench, Lily jumping up and down when she saw May approaching. "You came," Lily shouted, running to meet her. "Daddy said you might be too busy with your important studying." "I wouldn't miss our park day," May replied, giving the little girl a smile. "I brought something for you, too." She pulled a small packet of colored origami paper from her bag, and Lily's eyes lit up. "The birds." "You remembered." "Of course I did," May said, glancing up to meet Tom's gaze. He was watching them with a warm expression that made something flutter in May's chest, something she immediately tried to ignore as they settled on the bench and May began showing Lily the basic folds for a simple crane. She couldn't help wondering what exactly she had gotten herself into. Here she was, a struggling graduate student with 3 part-time jobs, teaching origami to the daughter of a man who could probably buy the entire park if he wanted to. But when Tom laughed at his own clumsy attempts to fold the paper, when his fingers brushed hers as she corrected his technique, when Lily beamed with pride at her first completed crane, none of that wealth mattered. They were just three people enjoying a beautiful autumn day together, connecting through something as simple as folded paper birds. What May didn't know, as she helped Lily launch her paper crane into the air with a gentle toss, was that Tom had made a decision that morning while watching his daughter get ready for their park visit. A decision that would change the course of all their lives in ways none of them could imagine. Thursday afternoon brought a rare moment of peace in May's hectic schedule. Her morning class had been canceled when Professor Watkins came down with the flu, giving her an unexpected free hour before her shift at the campus coffee shop. She sat at a quiet table in the student union, trying to make progress on a particularly challenging assignment about designing inclusive early learning environments. Her phone buzzed, and May smiled automatically, expecting another update from Tom and Lily. Over the past 2 weeks, their Saturday park meetings had continued, and they'd fallen into a pattern of texting a few times during the week. Usually it was Tom sending photos of Lily's latest accomplishments or asking May's advice on some aspect of parenting, but this text was from Mrs. Henderson. "Running late today. Can you pick up kids from school instead of meeting at home? So sorry for last-minute change." May quickly replied that it wasn't a problem and tucked her phone away. As she gathered her books, her eye caught the campus newspaper left on a nearby table. The headline made her freeze: Tech billionaire Thomas Harrington to fund new early childhood center at university. Heart racing, May picked up the paper and scanned the article. According to the reporter, Tom's company was donating $15 million to establish a state-of-the-art early childhood development center on campus. The facility would serve as both a research institution and a child care center, providing subsidized care for the children of students and faculty while advancing the study of early education methods. The article quoted, "Tom, quality early childhood education should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income. This center will not only provide much-needed child care for our university, community, but will also help train the next generation of childhood educators." At the end of the article was a brief mention of an open forum scheduled for next week, where Tom would be speaking about the initiative and taking questions from students and faculty. May stared at the newspaper, a strange feeling washing over her. She had mentioned her struggles balancing school and work during one of their park conversations, explaining how many student parents had to drop out because they couldn't afford childcare. Tom had seemed interested, asking thoughtful questions about what might help solve the problem. Had he created this entire initiative based on their conversation? It seemed impossible, yet the timing was suspicious. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Tom. "Are you free to talk for a minute?" "Nothing urgent, just a quick question." With shaking fingers, May called him. "Hey," Tom answered, sounding unusually nervous. "Thanks for calling back. I was wondering if you've seen the campus newspaper today." "I'm looking at it right now, actually," May replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Quite a coincidence." There was a pause, then Tom sighed. "It's not a coincidence, May. I wanted to tell you before you saw it in print, but the university released the announcement earlier than planned." "So this is because of our conversation?" "Partly," Tom admitted, "but I've been interested in early childhood education for years. Lily's mom was actually studying to become a teacher before she got sick. After talking with you, I reached out to some contacts at the university and it just made sense. May didn't know what to say. The idea that her casual comments had influenced a $15 million donation was overwhelming. "There's something else," Tom continued when she didn't respond. "The center will need a director once it's built. Someone who understands both the practical and theoretical sides of childhood education." "Tom, I'm not offering you the job," he quickly clarified. "That would be inappropriate for a lot of reasons. But I've told the university that I want recent graduates to be considered for key positions. When you finish your degree, you could apply." May found her voice. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Tom replied. "I just wanted you to hear it from me rather than reading it in the paper. And I'd understand if you'd rather not meet this Saturday." "I know this might seem weird." "It is weird," May said honestly, "but I don't think it's wrong. You're using your resources to help people, and that's good. Lily would be disappointed if we canceled our park day." She could hear the relief in Tom's voice. "She would be devastated, actually. She's been making you an origami surprise all week." After ending the call, May sat staring at nothing, trying to process what had just happened. Part of her was uncomfortable with the power imbalance this revealed. Tom could casually donate millions based on a conversation, while she counted pennies to make rent. But another part recognized the genuine desire to help that seemed to motivate him. By the time Saturday arrived, May had made peace with the situation. She would continue their friendship because she genuinely enjoyed both Tom and Lily's company, but she would be careful to maintain appropriate boundaries. This resolution lasted precisely until the moment she saw them waiting at the park. Lily was bouncing with excitement, clutching something behind her back, while Tom stood nearby looking uncharacteristically formal in a button-up shirt, rather than his usual weekend sweater. "We have a surprise," Lily announced before May had even reached the bench. "You do?" May replied, smiling at the little girl's enthusiasm. "Two surprises," Tom corrected, shooting Lily a look that May couldn't quite interpret. "I made this for you," Lily said, bringing her hands from behind her back to reveal a string of origami cranes in rainbow colors, carefully connected to form a garland. "Daddy helped with the string part, but I folded all the birds myself." May accepted the gift with genuine delight. "This is beautiful, Lily. You must have worked so hard on it." "I did. My fingers got tired, but I kept going because I wanted it to be perfect." "It is perfect," May assured her, carefully placing the crane garland in her bag. "Thank you so much. Now Daddy's surprise," Lily said, looking up at her father expectantly. Tom cleared his throat, suddenly looking nervous. "I was wondering if you would join us for dinner tonight." "At our house. Nothing fancy, just I thought it might be nice to talk somewhere other than a park bench for once." May hesitated. Going to their home felt like crossing a line somehow. Seeing her uncertainty, Tom quickly added, "Lily's been wanting to show you her room and all her books, but if you're uncomfortable, I completely understand." "Please come," Lily begged, grabbing May's hand. "I want to show you my rabbit collection and my special reading chair and the picture of my mommy." How could anyone say no to that? "I'd love to come," May found herself saying. They spent their usual time at the park first, playing on the swings and taking turns on the slide. But there was a new energy to their interaction, a sense of anticipation that made the afternoon feel different from their previous meetings. When it was time to leave, Tom led them to his car, a luxury SUV that somehow managed to be both expensive-looking and understated. As they drove away from the park, May realized she had no idea where they lived. Given Tom's wealth, she had expected something in one of the city's exclusive neighborhoods. She was right, but not in the way she had imagined. Instead of heading toward the modern high-rises downtown or the sprawling estates in the northern hills, Tom drove them to an older, tree-lined neighborhood filled with beautiful but relatively modest houses. They pulled into the driveway of a charming two-story home with a wraparound porch. It was larger than most houses in the area, but nothing like the mansion May had half expected. "Home sweet home," Tom said, catching her surprised expression. "Not what you pictured?" "I'm not sure what I pictured," May admitted as they got out of the car. "We used to live in a bigger place downtown," Tom explained as Lily ran ahead to the front door. "But after Lisa died, it felt too empty. This house has better memories. Lisa picked it out when we found out she was pregnant with Lily. She said she wanted a real home, not a showpiece. Inside, the house was warm and inviting, with comfortable furniture that looked actually used rather than just for show. There were children's books stacked on coffee tables, a doll forgotten on the sofa, and family photos covering most of one wall. "Let me show you my room," Lily insisted, tugging May toward the stairs. For the next half hour, May received the grand tour of Lily's bedroom, which was every little girl's dream. A canopy bed with twinkling lights, bookshelves filled with children's classics, and a reading nook built into a window seat overlooking the backyard. "And this is my mommy," Lily said, pointing to a framed photo on her nightstand. It showed a beautiful woman with Lily's curly hair, laughing as she looked at something off camera. "She's lovely," May said softly. "You have her smile." Lily beamed at this observation. "Daddy says that too." When they finally came back downstairs, they found Tom in the kitchen, looking slightly frazzled as he stirred something on the stove. "Everything okay?" May asked, noting his furrowed brow. "I'm beginning to question my decision to cook instead of ordering takeout," he admitted with a self-deprecating smile. "Turns out watching cooking videos online doesn't automatically make you a chef." "Can I help?" May offered, already rolling up her sleeves. Together they managed to salvage dinner, a simple pasta dish that tasted better than it looked. They ate at the kitchen island, Lily chattering happily about school and her friends while Tom and May exchanged amused glances over her head. After dinner, Lily convinced them to play a board game, which ended with her triumphant victory and subsequent struggle to keep her eyes open. "I think someone needs bedtime," Tom observed, noticing Lily's yawn. "No, I want May to read me a story," Lily protested sleepily. Tom looked questioningly at May, who nodded. "I'd be happy to read one story if that's okay with your dad." One story turned into two, but Lily was asleep halfway through the second one. May carefully tucked the blanket around her and tiptoed out of the room, finding Tom waiting in the hallway. "Thank you," he said quietly, as they made their way downstairs. "She hasn't taken to anyone like this since her mom." In the living room, Tom poured them each a glass of wine. "I hope that's not too presumptuous," he said, offering her a glass. "It's fine," May assured him, though she rarely drank. "Today has been really nice, Tom. Thank you for inviting me." "I should be thanking you," he replied, sitting across from her. "The past few weeks have been different, better. Lily's happier than I've seen her in a long time." "She's a wonderful child," May said sincerely. "You're doing a great job with her." Tom looked down at his glass. "I try, but it's hard sometimes. Being both parents, making all the decisions alone. I can't imagine," May said softly. "But from what I've seen, you're putting her needs first. That's what matters most." They talked for hours, the conversation flowing from parenting to education to their own childhoods. May found herself sharing things she rarely discussed: her father's abandonment, her mother's struggles to support them, her determination to create better educational opportunities for all children. Tom, in turn, told her about building his company, the stress of trying to be both CEO and present father, and his fears of failing at either role. It was nearly midnight when May finally looked at her watch and gasped. "I had no idea it was so late. I should call a rideshare." "I can drive you," Tom offered immediately. "You've been drinking," she pointed out, "and you can't leave Lily alone." "Right," Tom looked momentarily flustered. "Let me call my driver then." "Your driver?" May raised an eyebrow. "Of course you have a driver." Tom had the grace to look embarrassed. "He doesn't live here or anything. He's on call for evenings when I might need him." 20 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Tom walked May to the door. "I had a really wonderful time," he said, suddenly looking nervous again. "Maybe we could do this again sometime? Maybe without the kid part? Just the two of us?" May felt her heart skip. Was he asking her on a date? "Tom, you don't have to answer now," he quickly added. "I know it's complicated. I'm Lily's friend's dad and also this random rich guy who's funding projects at your university. It's weird, I get it." "It is weird," May agreed with a small smile. "But I'd like that. Dinner. Just the two of us." The relief and happiness that spread across Tom's face made him look younger, more like the slightly awkward dad she'd met at the park than the billionaire CEO from the newspaper. As the car drove her home, May stared out the window at the city lights, wondering at the strange turns life could take. From comforting a scared child at a playground to sitting in a luxury car after being asked out by one of the wealthiest men in the city, none of it made logical sense. Yet somehow, despite all the differences between them, despite the complications and potential problems, it felt right. Tom wasn't just a billionaire to her, and she sensed that she wasn't just a student to him. They had connected as two people who cared about children, education, and making the world a better place, whatever happened next. May knew her life had changed in ways she never could have imagined when she first spotted a crying little girl by the slide at Oakwood Park.